Hey, John, before we get started, could I ask, why should people join your session today?
Hey Gary. So I think people should join my session today if they really want to know how to better interact with Amazon seller support to get things done faster, more efficiently, and get to the outcome they want twice as fast as if they were just raising cases and going through Amazon templated response. Well, we say hell, but Amazon templated response kind of ambiguity.
Excellent. And why should people join the Seven-Figure Seller Summit?
I think I'm a big believer in like continuous education. And I think something like the Seven Figure Seller Summit, where you're bringing together all these experts from all over the Amazon ecosystem from different parts, is a great way to continuously educate ourselves. Because we don't go to university to become Amazon sellers, but this is our Amazon Sellers University, and I'm really glad and grateful to you for putting it on.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to the Seven-Figure Seller Summit. My name is Gary Huang. I'm very excited to have John Cavendish with us. How's it going, John?
It's great. Thanks, Gary. Good to be here.
Yes. And John is an alumni of Seven-Figure Seller Summit. Today, he's going to give you a masterclass on getting out of Amazon templated response hell. So I don't know about you guys, but I've been through this Seller Central, this back and forth. It's like email hockey. It can take weeks, if not months. So he's going to share the inside look at advanced problem solving and Seller Central hacks. Specifically, we're going to focus on a couple of issues within Seller Central, especially if you're dealing with listing suspensions, if you're trying to get negative reviews removed, negative feedback, there's ways to do that. And then he's also going to help show you a gap analysis, how to decide what you should be working on in your business to really scale it. And also, if you're working, thinking of delegating, what to give your team and assistant. So a quick introduction of John before we begin. John Cavendish is an alumni of the Seven-Figure Seller Summit. He's a seven-figure seller, and he has a vast experience from owning and overseeing millions of dollars in sales on Amazon with his own brands. And it also led him to found his own full-service Amazon agency, and they're one of the premier Amazon channel management providers that helps brands scale fast, and especially with a supportive team around them. He really has a wealth of experience, deep understanding of the whole Seller Central ecosystem, and then it really led him to develop his agency, Seller Candy. So they provide really expert virtual assistant experience, and I've tested Seller Candy myself, and they've helped me a lot. So that's why I decided to bring him on. He's walking the walk, so I wanted to bring him on to talk the talk. So John, before we get started, the theme of this year's summit is the wild west in e-commerce, because as you know, on one hand, there's the tremendous opportunity, but on the other hand, there's all these different factors that could shoot you down, like in the wild west, all these pitfalls. So I'm just curious, what are some of the what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen so far this year within the whole Amazon ecosystem?
So far this year, 6 weeks in, don't know. That's a good question. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was we all thought when I started in 2015, everyone was like, "You're too late. You're too late. Everything's saturated. It can't be successful anymore." And now here we are in 2022, and everyone's still growing. Everyone's still launching products and being successful. And yeah, I think it's amazing. And I love working with these people. Changes within the last year. I mean, apart from Brexit, if you were selling in Europe, which yes. I assume you were also hit with, yes. What a pain that was, because they've still just about fixing it now, a year and 2 months later. Yeah. That was a big thing. Otherwise, Amazon is Amazon, isn't it? Seller support is getting better, then worse again, and better than worse again. And if we've all got our head down and working, I think everyone's getting results.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So without further ado, John, would you like to start your presentation?
Sure. I'm just going to share my screen. Everything with Seller Candy is super colorful. Can you see my super colorful screen?
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. So if I go too fast, if I go too English, feel free to step in, Gary. Tell me I'm unintelligible.
And just to let people know, John do you want to share where you're from and just for people that might not recognize the accent?
So I'm from the UK, but I've been living in Vietnam for the last 6 years. And I've been here because of COVID, stuck for the last over 2.5 years. And next week, I'm going to the UK. So if anyone out there is going to White Label Expo in the UK or Prosper in Vegas in about a month, hit me up. It'll be fun. It's going to be a cool couple of shows, I think.
Excellent.
Wish you could be there, Gary. I know you'd be there if you could leave Japan.
Yes. I'll be there in spirits. I'll have to live, yes, send photos.
If you send me a little printout, I'll hold you closest to the camera and it'll look like you're there as well.
Yes, tag me. Yes.
Gary everywhere at every party. Cool, awesome. So this is getting out of Amazon template response hell, advanced problem solving and seller central hacks. Nothing biblical, but we'll go through it as quickly as possible and give you as much value as possible. So just 2 slides about Seller Candy, so you know who I am. Gary's already done the intro, so just very quickly. Seller Candy does anything that you can raise a case about, a seller support ticket about in the back end of Amazon Seller Central. So we give our clients the Seller Central experience they wish they had with completely outcome-driven assistance, like virtual assistant experience, like having a super nice, supportive person on the other end who can build a relationship with you and you get to know them. If you want to take a screenshot, that's everything we do. That's kind of our menu of services. And let's dive into the presentation. So a little bit about me. I'm CEO and founder of Seller Candy. Before we started Seller Candy, we did more than $5 million revenue from our own brands on Amazon. We sold $1 million worth of consulting before we stopped doing full service and just focused on Seller Candy, which is Amazon Seller Central support. I've run Amazon related businesses for the last 7 years now, I think. Crazy, need to update that slide. And then because of that, I've got to become a consultant, speak around the world, speak in China, speak at these events. And it's been a great experience. And thanks for having me, Gary. So let's get started. So there's going to be 3 parts to this. Part 1 is I'm going to talk about how to solve Amazon Seller Central issues effectively. So how to solve them faster and more efficiently without intricate systems or grinding yourself to death. Second, we're going to talk about how to know what to give your assistant or team. So how you can impact the high impact areas to improve and where you're leaving money on the table. So identifying those places where money is just sitting there waiting for you to pick it up and put it in your pocket. And 3, Q&A and how hot to stay in touch. You can tell I wrote that bit just before we jump on here. How to stay in touch. I love typing. So, was that you going to say something, Gary? My typing
no, I'm sure people will be really hot to stay in touch. I mean, that's what they say, right?
A hot boy, if you're in Vietnam. So, how to solve Seller Central issues effectively. So faster, more efficiently, without setting up intricate systems. So let's go straight into an example. You have a performance notification and it's a suspended listing. You know, the worst thing, you hate it, and everyone's worst nightmare. And we all know who's behind it, don't we? Dr. Bezos up there in his tower. I love this picture, it's one of my favorites. So this is exactly how our agents go about solving a listing suspension. Immediately. So as soon as you get a notification, as soon as they get notification, what you should do is raise a case to Seller Central to ask what they believe it is. So it's always good to get Amazon on it immediately, to acknowledge that you've received it and just to get them investigating. You never know, you might get a competent agent and they might be able to fix it for you if it's something that is legitimately a mistake. If not, you've raised the case and you've done what needs to be done. Then this is where you need a pen and paper if you've got a pen and paper at home, because this slide is not as thorough as it should be. So what you need to do first is you need to go into Amazon Seller Support and raise another case and ask them to enable your category listing report. So you raise a case to Seller Central, say, please enable my category listing report. And what that means is it's going to let you download a flat file of all of your current listings. So that basically gives you a feed file, a flat file of all of your listings. And then you should be able to see your listing and edit it. So even though Amazon's now suspended your listing, which means you can't edit it, once you've got your category listing report and you've downloaded it onto your computer, you'll be able to edit your listing again, because that's what we need to do. We need to edit the listing. I skipped that bit. So here, once you've got that category listing report, this is what you do. If it's a product policy complaint from Amazon, then you need to sanitize the listing. What that means is they probably told you, oh, you've said something you can't. A bot has highlighted that you have pesticide issue. This also works with pesticide issues. That Amazon's bots have decided that something on your listing isn't right. And sorry, we're going very technical very quickly. We're going to go a little bit technical later on. So if you're just starting out, bear with me while we go through the more technical part. If it's an authenticity problem, then you need to get your invoices. You need to annotate them, showing literally, this is where I bought it from. This is where I sent it to, because they're only going to look at it for about 2 seconds, and then upload it to your account health dashboard. If it's an IP violation, you need to reach out to the brand owner. So this could actually be if you've made a mistake and you've used a trademarked keyword on your listing. So for example, some things that we think of as generic might actually be trademark words. So we need to make sure that, if that's the case, we just delete it from the bulk file, from the category listing report, and then re-upload it.
John, can I quickly ask about the trademark keyword? Is that like, if someone made that mistake, or like, where would they accidentally put it? Like in the front end, like in the bullets, like maybe like, Nike, this is, I don't know, like Nike quality or something, or on the back end, or even like in PPC, like, they said you're not allowed to use a competitor's keyword. Like where would you likely see this, the IP violation?
It could be anywhere. I mean, the worst ones are the ones where you say compatible with, but you've just forgotten to say compatible with. So it's like, say you want to put it on a Jeep, and you're like, you could say, roof rack Jeep Wrangler, rather than roof rack compatible with Jeep Wrangler. And technically that might get flagged, and then you're stuck because Amazon's locked down your listing and you need to remove it. And if you raise a case about it, you're going to go around in circles, Yep. So what we want to do is we want to fix it ourselves and then just tell Amazon to refresh the listing.
Yep.
You're right. That's a good question. Thank you. So then if it's a product safety complaint, we need to prepare a plan of action. So this could be high return rate. This could be a safety issue. This could be a customer complaint. And it's always Amazon's bot just reacting to some keywords that they've left in their feedback. Half the time when it's a safety issue, it's just that the customer wanted to return it and they've just made up something, but not always. So we have to look at the specific case, because it used to be that, customers used to get free return shipping if they said there was a problem with the product. Now that's not the case, because everyone gets free return shipping.
Okay, excellent. And John, I just like to highlight, I think you raised something that's very important that's not on the slide, which is to raise another case to enable the category listing report. And I think that's very powerful. And, I've done this myself. Sometimes I do want to get the flat file of all of my active listings because I can edit it more easily. And, sometimes Amazon does, like, if you try to edit in the Seller Central web interface, it may not go through. But if you download the category listings report, it seems to have more authority of some sort when you upload it to make these changes. So I think that's a really great tip, John. And I know it's not on the slide. I just want to remind
it should be there. You're right
about that. Yeah,
I'll update the slide for next time. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's keep going.
No, that's great. So as Gary said, you can even use this to update content, and it writes directly to the catalog. So in theory, it writes directly to the catalog. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And hazmat. So if you've got a hazmat notification, it might just be that Amazon's highlighted some keywords in your listing which suggest it may be hazmat. Things like batteries, things like liquids, things like that. So you need to check your ingredients list. It might not have an ingredients list. If so, it's definitely not got ingredients. You prepare your SDS if it needs one, which is a safety documentation sheet. And if not, you do an SDS exemption sheet, which you can just Google and will come up. You fill it in saying, this product is a pair of glasses. It's got nothing dodgy in it. Submit it, and then Amazon should re-enable your product. There's a lot of shoulds when it comes to these type of things. One sec. So what if that doesn't work? 60% of the time. So if Amazon confirms that listing is compliant and it's still suspended, there's 2 things you can do. One of them is to call Amazon. So actually before this, you can do this one, which is delete relist. But first you can call Amazon. And once you've uploaded your category listing report, you'll have an upload number. And that is your batch file upload number. You can call them up and just quote that number to them and say, hey guys, I've done this. Why isn't my listing working? So actually I would do that first before you do this one. If that doesn't work, you need to delete your listing and then re-add it. So this is something everyone gets scared about the first time you do it, because nobody wants to delete their listing that's got loads of reviews, that's selling or was selling many units a day. But all I'll say is that it's safe. Your reviews aren't going to go anywhere. The catalog is separate. So just deleting it from your account and then relisting it is the quickest way to get something fixed, even though it's scary the first time.
And John, can I quickly ask, when you say call Amazon, how do you find their number? Is it listed somewhere, or do you have their number?
Oh, sorry, you're right. So best thing is to go onto your brand page. If you've, onto your account health page. So go into these, settings, account health, and then click on call me. So you should have a call me now button there. If it's not there, try and raise a case to ask them to enable the button. So that's the best way to do it. Not every account shows it, but most accounts are eligible for it. So that's a really good tip.
Yeah, I see. So go to settings, go to the account health page, and then click on call me. If not, then open up new case and ask them to enable call me. Is that right?
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect.
You can also actually just go into your case log and ask them to call you back, but the account health team is way more powerful. They have way more, the ones that page gets you a better callback than the standard case log page. So it's actually not in settings, it's just in the account. I think it's the account health tab across the top rather than in settings, sorry.
Account health tab, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And if you're still having issues, this is when you get on the phone and you just call Amazon. You've done all these good steps in the past, so you can describe exactly what you've done. So once you're on the phone with them, you can ask to get put through to the captive team. I should put more stuff on these slides, shouldn't I? I prefer to talk it through, but I'll put it on the slides next time. Get asked to get put through to the captive team, and then just tell them what you've done and tell them what you've uploaded. You've got the bulk upload number from when you uploaded your category listing report. You've done all the right steps, and they should be able to fix it for you now. It's not like you're going there and they're just passing you around. You know what you need to do. You're through to the captive team. You've got your numbers, and then just sit on the phone. And if you don't get anywhere, call them again. And this is the quickest way of getting anything solved.
What is the captive team? What do they do?
It's like the back end team. It's basically the layer above seller support. To actually do exactly what they do, I'd have to ask my team.
Okay.
Because I don't spend a lot of time on the phone with them anymore.
Yeah. So in other words, the captive team is kind of like escalating your case to like their manager.
Yeah.
To put it that way. Okay. Makes sense.
And talking about escalation, if they say the leadership team will call you back, I would say don't believe them. Like they tell people all the time. They tell us all the time the leadership team will call back.
Yeah,
we're yet to receive a call back.
Yeah, they're like, don't call us, we'll call you, and you're just waiting forever.
And then you're manning the phone. You're like, I will not be away while they call me, and they just don't call for like a week. It sucks.
Yeah. Okay.
So really, there wasn't a magic pill. And our ethos is if I can tell them exactly how to solve the issue, they can follow our process because we are better trained than them. Like what I just described to you gives you more of an arsenal of how to deal with seller support than most of the agents know, because all they do is they just follow the system internally inside. But if we can tell them that they have to go to the captive team, this is the number we uploaded, this is what we've done, then they can go, awesome, we've ticked all the boxes, let's help these people out rather than just sending them around in circles again. So breakdown of the process is we download Amazon's flat file, the category listing report for your listings. And as Gary said, go into your case log, request enabling the category listing report, and then download it. You make some edits and create a clean version, and actually sanitizing it, making it clean could be as simple as just removing almost everything and just leaving like 20 words in the text, make the bullets really short, and just make it as ugly and clean as possible. So no major keywords, nothing that you think might flag on Amazon. That doesn't work, then you delete the listing, you wait for 24 hours, and then you re-upload the flat file again. And step 4, if that doesn't work, you call until you get through to the end and you finally get to a resolution. So in graphical form, it's always good to have pictures, download, edit the flat file, press the delete button, and then chain yourself to your phone and keep calling until you get to a result. Cool. So we are flipping the issue resolution process on its head. And how about another? This one's a quicker one. So you have an unfair bad review. which we all get, sucks. What do we do now? And we all know who's behind it, Mr. Bezos. So this is exactly how our agents go about removing bad reviews. So there's two ways that buyers leave bad reviews. It can either be feedback on your Seller Central account. So about how the seller is treating their customers. So this could be, anything from late shipment, poor quality product, anything that the customer leaves actually on your seller account. And then there's product reviews that can be seen on the product detail page. So this is how to remove bad seller feedback. So Amazon used to always remove everything, pretty much. When you used to click here, request removal, they just used to remove everything for you whenever you just requested it. And these days, it's not really happening in the same way. So what you do is you log into Seller Central, you go to Performance Feedback, and then you find any negative feedback and request removal. So this is where Amazon used to just do it, and then there'd be no issues. But recently, Amazon hasn't been. They've been maybe removing 50% of it and then challenging you on the other 50%. You can only request removal if it's a product review or shipping related if it's an FBA, if you're an FBA seller, which most of us are, or if it's violating Amazon's guidelines. The good thing is pretty much everything, if you sell an FBA, is included if it's a product review or if it's a shipping related problem. Unless you're like, you send them some message, which is really offensive, there's pretty much nothing else that you could have done wrong as a seller. So if that doesn't work, if Amazon refuses to remove it, do not let the case close. If you let the case close, basically it's kind of getting stuck there. You might be able to get it removed eventually, but it just takes a hell of a lot of time longer. So then you should transfer it to your assistant. You don't want to do it yourself, it's such a pain, and ensure that you keep the case open until Amazon removes it. So they'll send you a case, just make sure they keep it open. If you let the case close, it takes much longer to remove, sorry. I skipped the wrong slide then. So if it's a product review, this is the process. So you can report abuse from the product detail page next to, was this review helpful? And you can only really do this if it actually does violate Amazon's terms of service. This one here might or might not, I'd say probably doesn't violate Amazon's terms of service, but we should have got one that does for this example. We need to write a clear reason on why the review details are inappropriate, and you need to stick to Amazon's guidelines. So for example, it mentions shipping. It mentions how it was treated while it was being shipped, even though it's an FBA product. It mentions the box was open when it arrived, but it was the outer packaging, something that violates Amazon's terms of service and really, is against Amazon's guidelines. And then you just need to submit the report as an appropriate button. So that's it. That's how you submit it. You can also contact seller support. So Amazon will only remove things with real violations, but you contacting through support is the next best way of doing it. And then if you're a brand owner, you can find the order ID of the person who left the bad product review using the brand dashboard. So this is a brand new feature in the last 2 or 3 months, and it's super useful if you're the brand owner. So go into your brand dashboard, and then you can actually see the negative reviews and potentially contact the customer depending on their settings. So this is a super powerful tool.
John, can I ask, where do the brand owners find that? Is that within brand analytics? Or where do
it's in the brand dashboard. I should have, I don't have an actual screenshot of it here, sorry.
Okay, brand dashboard. Okay. Would you get, like, do you have a better shot of getting your negative review removed, like through one of these multiple methods?
I believe that number one, which is to actually contact them on the listing, is the best way if you can't contact the customer. Mm-hmm. You will need to follow up many times.
Okay.
And then number three is the best if you can contact the person, because if you allow to contact the person, then you can solve their problem. And if we can solve that problem, we should be able to turn that review around, and that's the goal.
I see. Sounds good.
So, okay, guys, you've told me how to fix some of the hardest to resolve issues in my account, but how can I streamline this process and identify all of my Seller Central issues? So the second part of my talk is going to be how to know what to give your team or assistant. So how can you pinpoint the high impact areas to improve and pick up money you're leaving on the table in your Seller Central account? So yeah, feel free to ask any questions on the way through this one, Gary, because there's a lot of content very quickly. Twice. So what we say is you should do your own Seller Central gap review. So what's the aim of a gap review? So you want to evaluate all of the aspects of your Amazon presence. You want to provide all the logical steps to take to smash your revenue goals. You want to give yourself a fresh perspective and an unbiased view of what you're doing. So, stepping back and giving yourself the 30,000-foot view, because we're all like face to face with our businesses every single day and don't take the time to take a step away and look at it. And then use the triage system to let you know what changes are going to make the biggest impact in the fastest time for lowest cost on your business. So 1 is current state. So you want to take a step back, look at your business from 6 areas. First area is your Seller Central backend. So looking through the backend of seller support, going through your FBA settings, listing settings, brand storefront, checking everything's linked together, basically everything for the fine-tooth comb going to the back end of Amazon Seller Central. Then you want to look at each one of your listings, because I know for a lot of us, we create the listings and then they're selling. So we don't notice that Amazon's changed something or something's gone wrong. So going through all of them and making sure they actually match what was supposed to be there. Even if our client's using monitoring software, still we get errors because people miss the alerts. Then there's a marketing overview. So do an overview of your marketing, taking a step back, how your campaign's really doing. Are there any keywords really wasting money? Looking at the keywords and saying, this keyword spent a lot of money, it's converted a couple, but it's really not relevant to my product. They were just lucky. So it's worth really diving into that. Buy box suppression. So looking at buy box percentage, if it's not 100%, why isn't it 100% if you're a brand owner? So having a deep dive on that. Account health issues. So checking into any account health issues, looking into your products and the return rates, which is in the account health issues dashboard, checking they're not too high and that there's no upcoming issues. And then looking at expansion opportunities. So could we be looking at different colors, different things in the same market, or different products that your supplier talks about and manufactures? So actually, Gary was talking to me earlier about doing a scale your Amazon business talk. And one of my big things about scaling and expansion opportunities is to talk to your supplier and ask them for their catalog. Just get their catalog and then give it to your team or do it yourself and reverse engineer pretty much everything that you think you could make money on in their catalog and see if any of them are good opportunities. Because once a supplier knows you, trusts you, and you've got some bandwidth going, they'll likely do really small MOQs, give you credit, give you products, or just allow you to fill a container with many different things. So it's a great way of expanding.
Yeah, that's a great tip, John. And I've done this with some of my past products. For example, I was selling a posture support brace made of like nylon material. And then the same factory, they could do like a wrist brace, they could do an elbow brace, they can do a knee brace. I mean, obviously you got to do your numbers, right? You don't want to just like throw everything against the wall to see what sticks, but it does help because like John said, you've already built the trust with the supplier. You can probably consolidate, different products into one shipment rather than moving from several suppliers. So yeah, that's a really great tip, John.
Cool. And are you wearing a wrist brace now?
I am. In fact,
everything's okay.
yeah. It's tendonitis. So we'll talk about that some other time. But yeah,
sorry to hear that.
Best. Yeah, doing our best.
So we've got this big list of items. So you've opened up a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet. You've listed out everything. You put those titles in, made a huge list of things you found in your account. Probably, you might have found 20 things. You might have found 100 things. So next, we want to measure impact. So you can use any scale you want. We use a scale of 1 to 10. So how much difference will it make? 1 being nothing, 10 being, this will change my business. I will retire next year as a multimillionaire on the beach in Japan. So you look at each element from section 1, point by point. You evaluate what difference it's going to make if changed and how much impact that's going to have. We can forget about time and cost for this one. So this takes the stress out of knowing what you should be working on because you've got now a scale from 1 to 10. But impact on its own isn't going to be very good because it might be high impact, but it might take you 10 years to actually make this change. So what we do next is we have another column. So now we've got the impact column. We rated everything from 1 to 10. We now go through and we do cost stroke time, again, from 1 to 10. So evaluate the amount of time it's going to take to fix or improve something. And then approximate how much it's going to cost to implement that fix. So we can summarize cost and time together. So it's like, okay, it's going to make a huge impact, but it's going to cost me $1 million. I'm going to have to make my own software. It's going to take forever. Or it could be one. I could do this tomorrow just by making one quick change in the system. So then we check this against impact, because there's no point throwing time and money at something that's not going to make a big enough difference. Which brings us to the final element, even it says there, priority. So now we look at the list and prioritize to what we should be working on right now. We actually, when we do it, have cost and time as 2 different columns. So you end up with 3 columns. So cost, time, and importance. We basically multiply the numbers through together to get an overall number, which we call our triage system. So that gives us a priority for what's going to make them the biggest priority in the business. And this is the same process we've used to help consulting clients make profitable decisions for the last 4 years. So once you've done all that, you've got your Google Sheet, your Excel, you've got your 3 numbers, they're all multiplied together, you've got your final number, you can then sort, and you now have a prioritized list of what's going to make the biggest change in your Amazon business.
This is great, John. Do you have any examples that you could share of?
Not in this presentation.
Okay, but anything off the top of your head, like maybe like with the clients you're working with, maybe the top things that would have the highest ROI based on the triage system.
So the things with the highest ROI are actually usually settings issues, settings and broken listings. So we go in like FBA settings. People have wrong FBA settings, like they have inventory placement service turned on, which is a hugely expensive thing if you don't need it. Mm-hmm. They've got storefronts, but they're not linked to their listings because they thought the storefront would link to the brand, but it doesn't link because we needed to refresh the brand by re-uploading the listings again. Mm-hmm. Listings with broken, with old copy. So for example, they had an FBA listing and an FBM listing. Every time it switched to FBM, all the copy shifted to the old copy. And then they wondered why all of their sales went down, apart from it being FBM, which also reduces sales. Usually it's small things that we catch, which is like that. Long-term strategic things is not the stuff we implement. We help them with the fixing the annoyingly small, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But now I can get an example of that for this next time. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. So in other words, it's like the small hinges that swing big doors, right? Like these little settings that could be like a money drain, right? Inventory placement turn on, stuff like that.
Just profit drains, all this thing, like they all add up. And worst case we've seen was like 160 grand somebody wasted just on inventory placement service when they didn't need it.
Wow.
And this all adds up. The bigger the business you get, some of our clients do 20K a month, some of our clients do $1 million a month, and it makes a big difference. Reimbursements as well. Like a lot of people aren't doing Amazon reimbursements, and that's something that we do for our clients too. And if they've never done it, they can get back like 5 to 10 grand, just the money that Amazon's been losing from losing their inventory and losing their returns.
Yeah, makes sense.
Free money. Everyone loves free money, or money that you've already earned, which Amazon took for no good reason.
Yes.
So when you use the gap system to review your Amazon presence, you get a fresh perspective on where you are now, even if it's your own. You get steps which you take away, which will take you to where you want to be. And it can make a huge impact on your business if you follow your own plan. And because you've come up with it, you're going to follow it because, we do what we say we'll do ourselves. If someone else tells you to do it, you might do it. If you tell yourself you're going to do it, you're probably going to do it. Cool. And last bit, how to stay in touch with Seller Candy. So this is a new slide, so you can drop me an email if you want. That's my email address. Feel free. Like I said, if you're coming to any of the events in the UK or the US in the next couple of months, I'm going to be there with our team because I'm finally out of Vietnam after 2.5 years, and I'm just going to go and see some human beings.
There you go. Yes.
And what Gary said, as Gary said before, if you if you reach out to us, anyone who's watching this, we can give you $100 off for 12 months. Or if you just want to talk to our team about whether we're a good fit. And if you've bought what was it called, Gary?
The All Access Pass. Yeah.
The All Access Pass. We will do a gap report for you. So we actually call it an account audit, but we will do a gap report for you, completely pro bono, as a thank you to Gary for putting this together. We usually charge $299 just for that. So feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thanks so much, John. Super valuable training today. And as he had mentioned, John also has prepared some special bonuses for the free pass holders, $100 off, 12 months of Seller Candy's expansion unlimited service. And for the All Access Pass members, you will find that in the members area, you will be able to get the free gap audits done by John's team of experts, and I believe also a free consultation call as well on top of that to walk you through it. And if there's any profit drains, like, you know, if you may have that one setting turned on, like that one seller that wasted $160,000, they will be able to help plug those holes. So highly recommend that you guys check that out. So as we're closing out, John, a couple of questions. So we covered a lot today, and you've worked with a lot of sellers. What would you say are some of the top mistakes that you see sellers make when dealing with Seller Central and their whole, you know, back and forth communication?
I mean, the biggest, it's not so much of a mistake, it's just a frustration, you know? I feel like a lot of people that come to us, they come from a couple of different angles. So if they're a seller, it's that they've just given up on a lot of things. You know, they've got a certain way with Amazon, and they've said, I can't be bothered with this. I don't have enough time to fix this thing. We'll just leave it as it is. You know, it's not actually killing my business. It may be costing me some money, but at least, you know, I can work on other stuff. So it's just that people have given up on getting to the final result. And we also work with quite a few agencies. So this is just on a side note. And what the biggest thing that I think agencies have, which is the same as end sellers, is that the people they work with see all these small niggles as issues on their account. But the reality is, to get to the result, you know, you're looking for the strategic outcome. But actually, all the things that people see and they complain about is, oh, my title's wrong, my bullets are wrong, my images are wrong. And Amazon's telling them they won't update the content. So using us to update the content is a way of just looking great, you know, whether you're a seller and you want to get your content up to date without having to just raise 10 cases to Amazon and argue with them, or whether they're an agency and they want to look good to their clients, it's kind of the same thing.
I see. So when you say update the content, you know, with the listings and such, does your team of VAs do that? Basically what we can do is we can do anything you can raise a case about. So we don't produce content, we don't do PPC, we don't do strategy, but we'll do anything. Like if you give us the content, we'll force it through as long as it's compliant with Amazon. Yeah. So we can create the flat files, do the uploading, call Amazon, beg Amazon, bully Amazon, whatever it takes to actually get them to make the changes you want to make. Yeah, I see. Okay, excellent. And talking about scaling, I know that that's one of the other things that you have a lot of experience on. When should people hire their first virtual assistant?
It's a good question, and it really depends on the person, their experience, their capital. We always do it too late. You know, as they say, you always hire too late. It's always, you know, if I had the money, I would have hired immediately now. But back in the day, you know, when I started out, I didn't have any of the experience I had right now, you know. For work, like a general VA, like an executive assistant, now, I mean, I'd love to have that person as early as possible, because there's so many amazing, smart people out there. You know, if you're recruiting for yourself, as long as you've got a good recruitment funnel, or you're willing to look through hundreds of CVs, like the amount of professional, experienced, corporate trained people out there at the moment in the Philippines is amazing because of COVID. You know, because of COVID, you know, in the US, they said that they've got the great resignation.
Yes.
The same thing I feel like is happening in the Philippines right now, because most of our team's in the Philippines, because the government's been like shoving fear down the people's throats for 2 years. Nobody wants to go back to the office, and all the companies now saying you've got to come back to the office. So everyone's saying, I don't want to go back to the office. It's scary outside, or, you know, I'm triple vaccinated, but I still don't want to go outside. Yeah. So they're resigning, and then they're coming to work for us. So corporate people, amazing. To get Amazon specific people, a lot more difficult. So for what we do, I'd say none of our clients come to us unless they're doing at least 20,000 a month in revenue, and ideally they're scaling. 20 to 50, 20 to 30 is the minimum, and up to $1 million a month.
Excellent. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, that's a very long answer. But I would say as soon as you can afford to have a smart, experienced, competent, just assistant to help you with your email and organization, it's awesome. Having someone good.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good advice. And switching gears a little bit, do you have any favorite book or favorite podcast you like to recommend?
So many books. On what subject?
It could be business. It could be non-related to business. Just personal. I'm curious.
What comes to my mind? So podcasts. What I've been listening to recently, after listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast a little while ago, one of his guests that recommended the Fall of Civilizations podcast, and each episode talks about the fall of a different civilization. So might be one 2,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, the rise and the fall, and it's really interesting because it makes me think how cyclical things are.
Yeah.
And how civilizations rise, and the ones like 1,000 years ago weren't that different from today. They were still multicultural.
Yes.
People were traveling. There was more slums, more poorer people, but very similar, like that, and how it's then died out completely.
Yeah.
So I found it very interesting as a podcast.
Yeah, interesting. And even within business, businesses are cyclical as well, right? Because as a lot of people remember, just in the mid 2000s, Amazon FBA didn't exist. Amazon was still a bookstore. They did sell mostly first party, but eBay was the number one seller, and that's how I got my feet wet in e-commerce. I started out selling on eBay, and back then there were eBay conferences, just like what we were doing now. I mean, obviously they weren't online, but we went to eBay Live in Vegas, and learning from other sellers, listening to experts. But now eBay is like falling behind, and Amazon's taking over. Who knows? In another 15 years, is Walmart going to take over Amazon? I don't know, but you're right. Things are very cyclical. So that's a great point. All right.
And I guess for books, sorry, it's just one thing. It just made me think when you say cyclical.
Yeah.
Like I've been reading The Fourth Turning. It's worth, if you don't want to read the book, it's worth looking just at some YouTube videos, The Fourth Turning. It's really interesting because it's basically talking about everything being in cycles, and everything being in cycles of a human lifetime of like 80 to 100 years. And the whole concept that good times breed weak people breed bad times breed strong people breed good times breed weak people, and you go around this cycle. And that's in in 20-year generations basically. And how we're coming to the end of the fourth turning, which is around now. And this guy wrote this book in 1996. And he was like kind of predicted the 2008 crash kind of thing, like something happening then. And now is the time of the worst times where everyone's so divided. And we need as a society needs the bad times for us to come together and create the strong people that build the next cycle.
Interesting.
I really like the concept.
Yeah,
I mean, not the bad times concept.
Yeah,
but it's a good perspective.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like when we work out, right? We're gonna bring on pain, to our body, to our muscles, but that's how you grow, right? Only through that stress and through that pain. And if you're just like having a good time sitting on the couch, binging on Netflix and eating like potato chips all day, that's not gonna, have good results to your body, right? So. Could be, I just did a quick Google search. So I believe the author is Neil Howe and William Strauss, The Fourth Turning. Is that the right book?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I've been slowly reading it. And
Interesting. All right.
I'm reading a lot this year because there's not much else to do apart from work.
Yeah.
Stuck at home.
Good stuff. All right. Excellent. Are there any other questions we should be asking you, dealing with Seller Central and, when to hire your what to give to your team to delegate?
To my team, well, if it's my team in particular, you should just go to our website and check out our menu of services and see if there's anything there that you like the look of that we can support with. You talk to Ben on our sales team, who's super experienced Amazon guy and can always answer any questions. But no, I mean, we're here to help, you know. We're all trying to help Amazon sellers. So even if you have a question, feel free to book a call with our sales team. They're all super knowledgeable and they'll actually just be able to help you, even if they can't sell you anything.
Okay, sounds great. So last question, John. I love the 80-20 rule. What would be your number one recommendation, based on everything you shared today, just dealing with Amazon Seller Central and this whole thing?
I mean, for me personally, it depends on your personality type, doesn't it? I think a lot of us entrepreneurs are like visionaries. If you go through the whole traction model, there's the visionary, there's the integrator or the manager leader, and then there's the artist, the person who does the service. So I think focusing on the particular thing that we're good at, whether it's leading people, the vision, or whether it's actually doing the work, is going to give us the biggest amount of growth. So figuring that out, exactly what we're best at, and then hiring people for the things we're not best at is what gave us massive growth, what allows us to do what we do. And I think is the most powerful thing in business is figuring out what we're good at and then hiring people to do the things we're not good at, that aren't us, that aren't replications of us.
Yeah.
Because a lot of me running around is awful.
Yeah, 100%. I feel that's especially true right now, in the whole wild west of e-commerce. There's all these different shiny new objects, new things, but we really gotta, double down. Focus, right? The 1 to 2 things, and many of the 7-figure sellers, share that that's one of the keys to their success. So, so great session today, John. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot. I'm sure our audience did too. And thank you everybody for watching. And we will see you guys at the next session. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Gary.